Motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve the agenda. All those in favor, signify by saying
Aye.
aye. Approval of the minutes from August 1st.
So move as presented.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve the minutes from August 1st. Those in favor?
Aye.
Public comment. Public comment. Update from Mr. Netherland then.
Okay,
Wait a minute. Receipt of information from supervisors not seated. Don't see any. Okay, then, sure.
thanks. Our Trail, the legal proceedings continue. We've submitted our reconsideration request, our appeal and the process. And the bottom line is the judge is going to be hearing arguments or reviewing the material on the 28th of this month. Our goal is to have a possible stay of that decision prior to the horse season, which begins in October. So that's why we've been pushing. The other side is trying to delay it, as you can imagine. But it looks like right now it's scheduled for the 28th. And I don't know the status of the decision will be made then or not, but that's the next step. I was informed by Mo, congrats to his team and all involved in applying for a grant to help in the development of the ATV park up in Sterling. Grants for $317,000. That will go a long way. It will enable us to continue to use the lime quarry funds on other items associated with parks and trails, maintenance or whatever. But that is a big win. Appreciate that. The other thing
When will we get that grant?
should be,
We're just going through the paperwork now.
Just starting it.
We just started, so
But it is approved.
it is approved and it'll cover our engineering also for the park. So we can move forward with that project right now.
For the
Well,
park
that's-
up in Sterling.
That's the one in Sterling, yeah.
It's quite a benefit. One of our best. Did you submit the grant?
Mike Nimke and our forester submitted that grant and then they went to Wausau to speak in front of the board. So if there was any questions, we had someone there to show them the maps and show them what was going on.
Boy, they deserve a big thanks because grants are controversial.
one other thing I'll throw out to you all is we are looking, because we think this ATV park is really a step forward in our recreational resources here. We're looking at potential revenue opportunities such as, and these are the things we have to investigate, see if there's an interest, make sure that everything's appropriate, but possibly advertising space. At a facility like that, you know, you think of the different businesses around here who might want to advertise their ATV products or whatever. We think there might be some opportunity there. Let's see, and we think there is interest in different businesses who might want to help participate in maintenance and those types of things. Allow, you know, if they can put up a sign or something. So this is a new area for us. We're gonna investigate that as we make progress. I'll let you know what transpires. All I have.
I do want to make a comment if I can. The, what's happening now is our original intention when we knew that there was going to be a bifurcation or splitting of the quiet vehicles, so to speak, or bicycles and walkers and ATVs. So this was part of our kind of our long-term, and it's developing so much faster than I ever thought it would. And Doug went to work on it day one and has never slowed down. And I just can't give Doug enough credit for the efforts that he's put into that ATV project. And it's totally unbelievable. It baffles my mind what has been accomplished in an institution like this.
Mr. Chair, respond.
Go ahead.
I appreciate it, Jay, and it's nice you saying that, but it's
coordinating between the clubs and Mo and his team and the parks. It's not that I sit and listen as much as I can. It's between them and it's been fantastic. It has.
That's true. I'll totally agree with that. However, there was no coordination before you were assigned to that project, and that part of the coordination is part of your effort. I mean, take credit where credit is due. You don't get much, you know.
And it's really a great example, probably the best marriage of the three in the counties that I've seen. I mean, and I come a little early and try and listen, you know, and
Yeah,
everybody's enthusiastic. This isn't a job. No, they're enthusiastic about getting it done and seeing the people, seeing the success.
it's amazing. We get more participation in that meeting that you guys have every month than any other group I've seen around.
Yeah.
Even our standing committees don't get that.
Okay. Commissioner Norby, you're up.
Chair Warno. Sorry, to interrupt for a second. Apparently, we've got a problem with the computer.
Oh, good. There.
There we go.
Back to life,
Back to life.
maybe.
Nice things you said about Doug didn't get recorded. That's your plan.
You can probably get up there.
To look at. As they're bringing that up, the presentation, I did put on, handed out there looking for information on a project coming up in St. Croix Falls. It's US Highway 8, it's on the hill there. The proposed schedule right now is 2025. That's that concrete section. The proposed right now is milling off an inch and putting to 1 3/4 inches of existing asphalt and concrete and laying it back with asphalt. We've already replied back to this on our thoughts on this process, being on that hill on the western facing, that they'd have to beef up that asphalt pretty heavily on there to make it hold on that hill right now, because everything wants to shove down to the river. So if you have some comments on that, just contact Mark there at WisDOT on that, and you can share that with other people if they ask when that part of that highway is due for replacement.
Could you explain that a little bit more, Mo? How much, would it be totally asphalt?
Yes, right now they're proposing just milling off a little bit of the concrete to smooth it out and then capping it with asphalt. It's still-
You know, I've seen that for years, and, you know, those heavy trucks with that braking and everything. I would sure think, you know, that's really hard on asphalt, and boy, to me, a long term on that would be to keep it in concrete, but
Right, what we're finding with our full depth repairs down there is that those slabs are 8 inches thick. And about the 4-inch mark, it's actually delaminated and separating from each other and crumbling underneath that. So milling off it just a couple inches is not the answer
no,
at this time. Historically, that takes a lot of water that channels down those ways. It's caused our heavings in the spring once that sun hits the west and we get those warm, humid days, and that's why it heaves. So hopefully they'll take our comments in and put that in their engineering.
over the years, that hill's always taken a beating.
It does. It takes a lot of maintenance to keep it up, and as you drive it, there's a lot of small heaves there now that we have scheduled for repair in the fall if we can get to them.
Thank you.
I don't understand why they don't get it. It don't work. We all know it don't work. So why is it even I'll save my comment.
You're exactly right, Mr. Chair. That's why.
Some of the projects going on in Public Works, next slide. Parks and Trails down at DD Kennedy, we paved the parking, the paths down there, last week. I've got some really good positive feedback on there. The upper, left-hand picture there, that's where the restrooms used to be. Right now, we removed the existing restrooms and the foundation is poured in that hole. Next week, the bathroom is set to be installed in there. One of the hut cup prefab bathrooms on there. So a lot of progress there at DD Kennedy. It's looking really nice up there. Next slide. This was Alex Pegley's Eagle Scout project. This is put up in Sterling. He did a deer stand for the handicapped up there. We got it up there a few weeks ago. Cut some brushing lanes for that on there. Chairman Warrendall was up there and took some pictures with Claire and the Eagle Scout with that. And actually, there's a resolution on here also. He had $135 left over in his project fund that he wanted to donate for the maintenance of the stand. So hats off to Alex, did a great job up there. And this is on our county website now for people to reserve for 3 days at a time for handicap hunting.
Nice.
Next slide. Bridge work, County Road B. This is the bridge up in Atlas. Last week, we got the bridge deck poured. We have a walkthrough tomorrow. They should have the rails tied in on this, so that's a good one to get off our plate. The County K Bridge, that is scheduled to start September 18th now. And then on a side note, on other bridges, the town bridge on 357th Avenue in Lorraine, 30th Street in Clear Lake, and our county bridge on County Road W over Mackenzie Creek. We were able to get that funding changing for construction from an 80-20 split with the state to 100% funding from the state for construction. So we still have 80-20 on design, but we got the construction side of that at 100%. So that's a big one for us there also. Next slide. Claire clicks on that. This is actually a video. It's a milling up in Cushing. Hit from 87 to the feed mill in Cushing. This is a mill out of this mill right here, 12-foot mill. It's pretty impressive. Loaded 14 trucks in under 30 minutes. Moving up that hill. They're paving one lane back today with the heat. They'll finish tomorrow, and then they're paving County Road Z. And then we milled County Road D from Clayton to the county line, and that'll be paved back the week of September 11th. Next slide. At the museum, one of the things was the windows replacement. That's went along really well. You can see all this right here. These are the windows that we're replacing. And the gentleman that's doing this handmade all this, reworked all that molding now and going in there, and that project is almost complete. And as he's working on the museum, he actually camps in our river campsite in a tent. So, but that's coming along very well and hope to have that done. Other things scheduled down there, we still have the doors to be installed in the museum. There's at the highway shop now, and the siding on the old school there by the post office, that's scheduled to go forward in the next couple of weeks. Slide. Status of other things. Grants, the Apple River restroom project, we had that in the budget for $180,000, $90,000 matching grant. We did not receive that grant. We were 1 point shy from the last project done on that one. So we will pull that from our CIP for this year and apply for it next year. We have a good chance that we'll get that funding next year for that one. And as you heard, we did get the intensive use park project grant, $316,944. So that was a great one on that one. Dams, the Atlas Dam repair, the DNR is reviewing those engineering plans right now, so we're still waiting on those. Clam Falls Dam, we extended that to September 29th for the drawings to go to DNR. For their request, they had more questions on sediment in the river to our drawdown. The drawdown was originally going to start September 5th. The drawdown will now start September 15th, but we have to be done by mid October 15th, due to the mussels and the turtles trying to find a spot to hide. We're allowed only to go down 4 inches a day for that, and we have to draw down about 10 feet. So it's gonna take quite a while to get that down there. It's gonna be playing with those levels to get that down there. So that's on schedule still for replacement next year. Recycling, we had our clean sweep event on August 24th. It was very successful. We had 130 cars come in there for hazardous waste to drop off stuff from their homes. That went very well. The Justice Center roof project is just about complete with the exception of some tin work on the outer edges and some electrical repairs from driving screws through conduits that they didn't know were there. Moving along very well. Government Center, close to done on that. We have our switch gear is finally in to get the emergency generator on the full building. We are trying to schedule a full building shutdown on a weekend to do that, complete that side of it. And then we have punch list items, the stairwell still to do, and some minor things with lighting. The fall commissioners committee meeting, that's usually in Hayward. This year it's gonna be at the Barron County Highway Shop, October 26th. So I'll make sure that the clerk knows to note that as a quorum. You're more than willing to go down there. We hope the Secretary of Transportation will be there, along with a couple of our state representatives will be down there to talk about issues with transportation. And that's at 9:30 at the new Barron County Highway Shop. The recycling project, that contract has been signed and is with the contractor now, so work should start moving forward on that shortly on that one. Next slide. Budget, kind of had this slide last month on there, current budget status. Things are looking good this year. Most of our projects are coming due and complete. For next year, we have the CISA, HVAC and the boiler repair, the security windows at the Justice Center for safety, the county JJ job, which is a LRIP project. We got a grant for that one. The County Road B job, the BAL project, where the county has a cost share of $847,000. That's still on schedule for next year. I got an email yesterday that state we may have to delay when we go for bid for that, but I'm hoping we can still do that next year. That's when it's scheduled for. We can't meet our PS&E date due to there's some historical findings that wasn't listed when they first did the project. Other funding and 24 funding issues, extra funding requests for 2024. Next slide. This was a slide I showed you last month. This is all our funding requests for 2024. The ones in pink there, install the restrooms and septic and water at Apple River Campground. We pulled that because we did not get the grant on that one. So we'll apply again next year with that. We have a very strong, we're gonna get that grant next year. The replacement of the dock at Lotus and regraveling at Stour parking lots. I pulled those from the budget. We had found alternate funding for those within the budget, so we'll still take care of them. It just won't be an extra funding request. So we have the parks truck, the lawnmower, the replacement of the show barn roof at the fairgrounds. That was an original ask of the fair of $75,000. We found alternative to repair that roof with a 20-year warranty for $35,000. And then upgrade lighting at the fairgrounds, $10,000. And the one that I did not put in there was install Wi-Fi at various locations through the fairgrounds. I still don't have a plan from the fair on that, on what that would be. So that leaves us $815,000 of unfunded for bonding or alternate sources. And then I listed the highway CIP on this one this time. That usually comes out of the highway funds, most of it. In our equipment funds, we're going for a plow truck, a supervisor's truck, crew truck, patching trailer, a CRS2 oil tank for our spray patcher with a scale that needs replacing, a mower, and an air compressor for equipment. And then for the projects, the BAL project, County Road Double C, that's the one down in Alden, from C south of the county line. JJ2 is a local road improvement project. That one is from Clear Lake, US 63 going north. That's a pulverize and pave. We have a grant for that one for $393,000. Paving projects are C1. Halfway down that road from Little Falls going south. County Road F3, that's a mill and overlay. That's from 65 to Duranda. That road's pretty tore up right now. And then County Road V, Part 2 is finishing up what we started this year on capping that off, and then 2 chip seal projects. This is pretty aggressive. I mean, this is almost 32 miles, if not 33 miles of paving to do, which is almost 10% of our system. So it's very aggressive on that to go forward with that. Of that, we're working with administration and where we're gonna come up with that. Originally, last month, we were at, I was gonna use $500,000 of the highway fund and part of that funding. I bumped that up to $750,000 of highway fund balance. Our fund balance right now currently is right around $3 million. So we're sitting fine there. That leaves in the highway department side, $364,347 that's not funded, which would add to that number above. So a total of almost $1.17 million unfunded right now for bonding or alternate funding for public works. That's where we stand right now. So that's trying to take into effect our priorities. Next slide. And that's really all I have for you to go over those, working with that. Any questions? Yeah.
Go back to the Clam Falls Dam.
Yes.
And it's just coincidental that I've been asked questions about it this last week. And about the drawdown, when that's gonna begin, and I said, I don't really know yet, now I know. And the other thing, there's 2 things. One, the rumors out there that you're putting in a new bridge it'll be part of the dam.
No.
I didn't think so. But the other thing is they're asking, I thought you said the bypass would be on the west side, but now they're saying the east side. So which side is it gonna be on?
Right now, the way our last meeting had it was the first time it was gonna be on the west side. Then they changed it. They thought they could do it on the west side. Now they're gonna do it within the footprint of the dam. As they work on 1 or 2 of the spillways, they're able to divert flow to the other one and keep it within the structure and not have to dig out County Road I to get in the bypass. That's the current plan right now.
That sounds like a good plan.
A lot less invasive that way.
It'll help. Thank you.
I had a couple of vocal constituents next door to me, who are curious about the County K Bridge. And do you have any, it's nice to know I can tell them we got it starting on September 18th. Do you have any idea what sort of time frame that will take on that? I know initially when it was earlier in the summer, you really couldn't say when or how long it was gonna be. Do you have any idea?
About 5 to 6 weeks.
Okay, great, thank you.
Dr. Moore.
Yes.
It's always been some kind of controversy, with the highway department, what they could do in villages. And I noticed going south Osceola, right after you go through the viaduct there, that I believe the county used to cut those trees and everything. And now they really grown up big, and I see as they get bigger, it's starting to, the rocks are, it's loosening up and falling more. Is there any insight on that?
Going up the hill there,
Yeah,
I'll have the state look at it. We'll take a look at it and see what they want us to do with it. Because it's been a while since we brushed that one back.
yeah, I think I would just say on an average, say maybe they used to brush that about 5 years and keep it pretty clean. Boy, the roots of the trees are really getting into that limestone, and
On the
As you're going-
west side?
well, both sides as you're heading south of town. Kind of the same thing, going toward the 243 bridge.
No, I'll look into that.
Yeah.
Thanks.
It's kind of dangerous. You never know when it's gonna happen. But it does happen.
Well, is your aggressive paving program based on need, or is it touching on the goals that are set forth by the county board to improve highways infrastructure. I mean, you say it's an aggressive program. Is that your intent? Or do you still have something you'd rather add on to this program for, to meet that goal further? Or, you know where I'm at? I'm trying to always figure out, what are we doing to meet our goals?
It's a little of both with the BIL project being a 857 cost share. That doesn't make that doesn't put our guys to work or get revenue on our equipment. That's just an outlay of cash. Which I still need to spend that 2 million for county construction. It fits in lines with the board of the priorities on there. And I will say, we have more projects than there's extra money. So I mean, to be aggressive, I mean, we have a lot of roads that need attention on there to pave, but we did try to keep it into effect, and there's only so much we can get done in 1 year. We do that, so we try to do both.
We have an average Paisley rating for all the roads in the town, in the county.
2022 was 6.9. Our goal is a 7, it was 6.9.
Yeah, I know it was a 7, so we're getting there.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't looked at them all this year. This spring took a really hard look at roads. They really came apart, so I have a feeling that it's gonna drop even a little more off that, possibly to 6.5, 6.7. But this will help get us back up to our numbers.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Well, thanks a lot.
Good job. Guys, take some good pictures. That helps us stand.
Update from Sheriff Brent Walk, please.
Do you want to do the resolutions?
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
they are. Well, thank you for bringing that to my.
You guys ready?
We'll do these resolutions quick.
Okay,
Sorry about that.
no problem.
Okay, discussion and possible action regarding resolution 3923, resolution to accept the donation from the Eagle Scout Alex Kegley.
Make a motion to accept them as presented.
Motion made and second to accept the donation. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Passes. Discussion possible action regarding resolution 40-23, resolution to accept donation in memory of Norman and Norma Reed for the maintenance of the D.T. Kennedy Park. Motion made and second to accept the donation. All those in
Can
favor?
anybody explain that?
I can, Mr. Chair. I got a phone call from a Dave Reed that asked that he wanted to donate $500 for maintenance of D.D. Kennedy in honor of their mom and dad, Norma and Norman Reed.
Yeah.
So with that, I said I had to go through resolution of that, and they just really like using the park and wanted to help out and honor their family.
Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Let's see, did I miss anything else? Committee?
No, that's it.
Okay. Now you're up, Mr. Sheriff. Sorry about that.
Just a couple updates. We had our sheriff's night out, similar to a national night out. First Tuesday in August, and I know a few of you attended. Appreciate that. I think we served about 220 hot dogs, so we had a good crowd, good turnout. That's a good opportunity for us. We had Balsam Lake Fire there as a participant. We had regional EMS there. We had some public health officials set up a booth, and we also had Polk Burnett giving kids rides in their bucket truck, which was a big hit. Also the Salvation Army. Bob brought their bounce house along for them to enjoy. So a very successful night and a good community event for us at the sheriff's office. And I think we have good momentum with that event. And we look forward to doing that every year. I would like to thank Don Burrows. He took a big role in that this year. Guy who kind of was overseeing that had left us, so Don stepped up and we had a great event. Then last week we did Shop with a Cop at the Walmart. I don't know if anybody saw any of the press on that, but that's a fantastic event. The Salvation Army and Walmart are great to work with. We had over 40 kids that got to shop with cops. And depending on the age of the kids, they get up to $175 for back to school clothing. You know, it's not for doodads, it's really for clothing. So the kids and the families get nominated from the various schools, and then we get to take the kids shopping at Walmart. And it's a fantastic event. A lot of smiles. Walmart donates a bunch of snacks for the kids to have too. So very good community event. And joining us in that was also the St. Croix Falls Police, the Osceola Police, and Clear Lake Police Department. So they sent officers over to participate as well. If you remember, I think it was 2 months ago, I mentioned we were submitting like $104,000 in reimbursement for the DNR patrol we had done. And I'm happy to report we got 78,000 of those requests back. So that's roughly a 75% payback, and that's really good. You know, that should get better. I think they've increased the funding for snowmobile revenue, so we should see a bump in that next year as well. It's typically around 70 to 75% reimbursement rate on that. So that's a good amount of money to put back in. Any questions? We also had our 7th and 8th fatal, unfortunately, in the last month. That was a 2-car fatal on Highway 8. And we believe it was probably someone fell asleep and drifted across the center line. So that was at 6 in the morning and pretty ugly scene. But again, our average for fatalities is 10, unfortunately. So we're still below our average, but it's a concern. You know, our highways see a lot of fatal accidents, and we study them so that we can hopefully learn from them and prevent some in the future.
Was it 2 in 1 car or both drivers?
It was 1 in each car and they hit head on. Yep. Our budget priorities for the year, and I think we talked about this last time. Upgrading the cell check system in the jail. It's roughly $12,000. Tasers, again, tasers have a shelf life of about 5 years, and then they stop warranty in them and some of that. So looking at upgrading our tasers, that's about $35,000. For the update in dispatch, it'll require some council updates, and that's approximately $200,000. And then one of the important things, and you know, we talked about this last year, and all of you have toured our dispatch center, but we are in need of adding a position there, and we are full staffed. And so we're gonna be asking for another position in dispatch. Also, us taking over the security, which we have now transitioned to. We are manning the security in the Justice Department, Justice Center, and it's been very positive. We've got a staff member from the jail working that now. There'll be a second one, and then we'll be asking for a third position for that. So I think that's good service. You know, we have people that are trained in recognizing security threats, and they have good people skills as well. I think we're gonna get a much better product than what we got from Permar. And I think that's, I know Mo had to run that contract for a while, and I think you felt some of the frustrations. And you know what, it worked fine for what we had, but it was time to step up and do it better. So I'm really optimistic, and I'm really confident we're gonna have good security. Any questions?
No incidents at the fair?
No, the fair was, other than, we do plan on meeting with the fair just to talk about the evacuation plans and what we can do better and some of the concerns, but overall, very successful fair, as it always is. You know, the fair is probably the pinnacle of the year for this county with the good things that go on. So I know we did have one OWI arrest someone leaving the fair. I think our guy even used our ATV to stop him. We did make one OWI arrest, but again, 40 to 50,000 people probably attend that fair, and to have that little bit of law enforcement, it's really a testament to what a good event it is. I hate the thought of someday you have a bag check and metal detectors. You know, if you go to a big city, that's what big events look like. You know, you gotta have a clear bag when you come in and all that. We're still a small town fair, and people come and go, and it's a nice event, so happy about that.
In your budget talks, have you kept the goals in mind and talked about anything that you might need to improve on the drug situation that we have, or?
But, you know, I think we're sitting really well with what we have as far as, you know, technology, and we got 2 canines out and about now. I'm excited for that. So I think we're doing a good job on that aspect. I will just say budgeting's expensive, and Don can tell us this further, but squad cars 3-4 years ago were 25 grand. They're now $40,000 to $50,000 per squad car. So, you know, the cost is creeping up. And they're not any better than the cars we got for 25 grand. They're essentially the same cars. They just have doubled in price. And it's a supply demand. They're hard to find. So we're just fortunate if we find a squad, and it's a challenge.
You have any update on the emergency vehicle?
Yes, Don is planning on picking it up tomorrow. And then again, we're gonna assess what its strengths are. I mean, it was an opportunity they gave us this. Maybe next time we'll get on the agenda, we pop over and take a look at it. It's an impressive vehicle, but will it meet our needs? We're not sure, but we're gonna do a thorough assessment of it and hopefully make it work. It's a budget conscious decision if we can make it work.
I know, I just wanted to express at one of the steering committees that I was at on the highway, and that we mentioned something, we talked about Wisconsin auction.
Yep.
And I mentioned something that there was a discussion on emergency vehicles that we might be making a change. Holy cow, I'll tell you what, the one we got is gonna be worth a lot more than what we originally had planned on. There's some smaller counties that are really looking for something like what we got.
Yeah, I mean, it's you know, we were blessed a few years ago. We got that vehicle for $1 from Goodhue County, Minnesota.
Yeah.
And we used it as a crime scene vehicle, and it's been a really good vehicle to have around. And that was a good budget decision too. We spent $1 on it, and then we spent some time over getting a few things tweaked on it, but it's been a good buy, and we do use it quite a bit.
Best dollar we ever spent.
It is a good $1, absolutely.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Knock on wood, we had a good holiday weekend. Seems like the neighbors made the press more than we did, and that's always positive in my book, so.
All right, thank
All
you.
right.
Supervisor Rowdy, an update on the Polk County ATV, UTV.
Okay, quick update, and it follows in line with what it's been going. As John said that too, if you sit and the club members can work with the county, and Mike Nimke is the parks director, and he's been working on grants, and you need to have a discussion between the clubs and him in order to design and get the grants applied for. And it's just moving along, it sounds like, very well. And they had gone in person to the meeting instead of doing Zoom, because they could be there and have all of their everything to show what we needed and what we've done. And it's moving along just fantastic.
Right. Good.
Any questions?
Stay here.
CJCC update.
So in August, with our first time offender program, we just had one participant, one new referral, and one graduation. With that program, it's pretty easy to get through it. So actually our diversion case manager right now has attended some sessions in Chippewa County and is looking at revamping that. So it's actually when someone gets, that is an offer from the district attorney's office, they have to come in person to attend a class. So there's a little more buy-in than getting in charge and just working on this, like a fast class from the comfort of your own home. Substance diversion, we have 2 participants right now. Both of those individuals are doing well. We've struggled to have participants in that in the past. Our intoxicated driver program, we had 5 with 1 graduation. Treatment court, we had 10 participants, 1 termination. We received 2 new referrals. 1 was found ineligible. And we're waiting for 3 participants to start. 1 has court this month to wrap up some cases and will be starting. And then 2 will be released on other cases in October, and then we'll be starting with the program. And we actually have an intern from UW River Falls starting with us tomorrow. And so she will be just kind of learning what diversion and treatment court looks like. And then she'll also be working on helping to develop that first time offender class. Anyone have questions?
No graduation soon then?
Yeah. Less than 4 weeks left. So. Oh, and our next graduation will probably be in January.
No budget review, oh, fun.
I think we heard a little bit from Mo, and I think Don has an update as well.
Thanks, everyone. Just a little bit on 22, some information on 23, and then looking forward to 24. So at the full board meeting this month, you'll hear the audit report. And I don't want to give away all the good news, but the county returned a surplus this past year. So we'll be discussing that at the board meeting. And I'll bring that idea back around when I talk about 2024. One of the purposes of this report is to talk about how departments that report to your committee are doing financially for the current year. This is still September. When September closes, we can provide the third quarter reports to this body. I think Chair Warndahl asked about that last meeting. So we prepare these reports quarterly. So at the end of September, we'll have that for October. And we'll know where we stand relative to 22 and 21 at the third quarter point, so you can take a look to see how we're doing. 2024, I mentioned that there's a budget surplus from 2022. Highway Commissioner, Public Works Director has indicated that he's got a number of projects that relate to board priorities around infrastructure. He's committed $750,000 from the highway fund to take care of some of those projects. There's roughly a balance of around $800,000, a little bit more, that we need to try to find dollars for. And there's really 2 ways we could look at doing that. One is you could take some of the surplus from 22 and apply it to 24 projects. So take the surplus from 2022 and spend it on capital projects, infrastructure projects for 2024. You could also look at borrowing for that. So we'll make these options available and understood to you, and that would be something for discussion and future action on. I thought I would also mention that there's still the budget process, I think, is going very well this year. We're getting close to balanced. At this time, we're looking to get to 0 for operating budget, and we're very close. There's still some things that are unknowns for us. We're meeting with our healthcare consultants to try to get a clearer picture of what's going on with healthcare expense in 23 and projecting that through to 24. And as we've been saying in a number of committee meetings and board meetings, our healthcare expenses have been dramatically higher in 22 and 23 than in the past. So that's kind of a curveball out there. And we're about to enter contract negotiations with WPPA. So we don't know how that's going to turn out yet. But we're confident that we're going to get a 0 budget to the board in October. And Vince will be providing an initial overview to the entire board in September on that. Any questions?
I assume you're gonna let us know what the budget surplus is at the county board meeting then?
Well, I didn't want to, would you like to address that? I mean, I can give you the number.
Yeah, we've got the number hasn't
It's
been
about
signed off.
$3.5 million.
Pardon?
About $3.5 million. And the reason I say about is because there's two different numbers on one audit report and another, and we're trying to get the auditor to tell us which one's real. But by your policy that's you've established for the county, 50% of that basically goes into the ultimate savings account, can't be touched. But there'd be 50% of that would be available for projects if you chose to do those sorts of things.
So then like, so the 22 surplus that you mentioned, so then that is in that account and 50% of that would be available or
More or less, or yeah, I mean,
lapsing or?
well, it's to your discretion. It's currently uncommitted dollars that the board could choose to commit to infrastructure projects as an example. You could commit it to anything that you wanted to. But I think, you've heard cases by both the Public Works Director and the sheriff that because of your board priorities, that you should give some serious consideration to some of their projects with some of these resources.
Yeah.
As he mentioned then, one idea in the past, looking at some of these capital expenditures, if you really want them, we would say you'd have to borrow, which, as you recall, part of our strategy is to borrow throughout the course of a period so that we maintain a level interest rate for the taxpayer, so that their levy doesn't go up or down.
That's what's important.
But we could, the option that the board will have is rather than borrow for those things, could we use a portion of that surplus of 22 to pay for those things going into 24? So, and then we would have funds for borrowing later if there's a larger capital project that you guys need or whatever. So
That wouldn't affect the levy
would not affect the levy.
anytime?
If you recall, we pay about, and I'm gonna go off the old numbers, about 2.4 million a year in interest. If we keep that level, then the levy does not change. If we pay off all our debt, which certainly is never bad, right? Our levy goes down that much. And then the only way to get that back is if I think it's a referendum even to,
Or you just borrow more money.
yeah.
Or-
So, right. So we're gonna present that to the board as an option. Because, it's, do we want to just keep borrowing a certain amount each year? Do we want to skip this year? We skipped last year, skip this year, and maybe borrow more next year if there's a larger capital project or need that comes up.
Well, now, I assume that the way the interest rates are going kind of eat into what we have available to borrow.
Our current interest rates for the capital project of this building are very low.
Right.
Now, if we borrow this year, we're not, we can't look into a crystal ball, but the thought is that the interest rates this year are probably as high as they're gonna be for the time being. May not be lower next year, but they is our hope, our thought. So, if it may make sense to say, hey, let's use that surplus from 22 to fund some of these capital projects.
If that's the case, then I gotta justify this, we got the same problem on any township, is it? But if the levy, to maintain the levy we gotta maintain a certain amount of interest
Of debt.
dollars of debt.
Right.
Now, you indicated that if we use that funds and paid that off, then somehow that levy would drop.
But not enough. We can, as I understand it, we can, if we plan for it next year, for example,
Okay,
and it's kind of, you can play with those numbers to, you want to do it this year or next year. We borrowed, what, 8 million or
Yeah.
7 million last, before this project.
right. But that brings me to the question.
Yeah.
If you indicated that, and Don mentioned that if we borrow more money, we will maintain that interest rate or that levy without a referendum. is there a cap on the levy that we are working under that will not go higher without a referendum, or will that go up?
And the auditor will address this at the September meeting of the full board, but we
I
have,
understand them.
yeah, so we have an incredible amount of debt capacity. Something almost $300 million,
Yeah.
which we'll never, ever use. So we're using a fraction of our available debt capacity. The board has previously opted to keep the interest payments really similar over time, so the levy didn't go up and down. Now, we didn't borrow money last year, and we may not borrow money this year, so the levy that we pass through the interest expense to the taxpayer. And so if we drop what we're spending, because we're not borrowing, then that gets passed through and the taxpayer pays less. But the next project that comes along where we have to borrow, assuming that we did, the levy would go up, because again, we're passing that interest expense on.
Automatically.
That's just the way it works. And then, but you know, as long as we stay under that $300 million cap, and I don't see any reason.
Oh, okay.
that.
But Don, when he mentioned that 220 figure of interest that we're paying,
0.4 million, right?
we also are gaining some interest in some of our investments.
That's correct. It's favorable
Do
investment.
you have
environment.
any kind of a figure on that so we can see a balance?
Well, right now, with our cash management accounts and 180-day T-bills, we get over 5%. And sort of the prediction on what it would cost to borrow for next year is 3.75. So we have sort of a favorable spread right now. We can borrow in ways that a normal person can't at better interest rates. So,
Oh, yeah, but from the interest that we're receiving,
yes,
I
sir.
want to see that figure against the
Okay.
interest that we're
Yep.
paying.
Right.
Give me any kind of a balance.
I would love to be able to do that. And we should be able to do it very soon. What we're about to do with our investment advisors, make some decisions about putting money in T-bills or CDs. Right now, a lot of it is in cash management because the rates have been so favorable. But we've been in this situation called an inversion curve, inverted yield curve, where short-term money pays a lot more than long-term money. That's starting to shift. And so the treasurer is working with our investment advisor to pick some long-term investments or longer-term investments that will pay higher interest rates. She has not pulled the trigger on those yet, and so we can't predict exactly how much interest income we're going to get in 24. Our best estimate right now is we'll get about $500,000 more in 24 than we got in 23. That's a lot of money.
There's really not a big gap between what we're paying in interest and what we're receiving in interest. Is that right?
We're borrowing more. I mean, we borrowed.
Yeah, I know we borrow somewhat more, but
Very favorable.
trying to
rate.
get an idea of what our balance is.
Now, we borrowed at very favorable rates that we could not duplicate again right now, but we also believe that interest rates for borrowing are going to diminish in the upcoming year or so. I'm not sure I'm answering your question. One way to look at it is we're spending about $2.4 million in interest expense, and we're budgeting right now, because we don't know exactly, an additional $500,000 in interest income. So that's
Okay.
beneficial.
So 2.4 versus 0.5.
I remember in years past when the bond people, they'd give us about five different investments, like municipal bonds was more favorable than some of the other investments.
And that's exactly what our investment advisor and Amanda, the treasurer, and the finance team are looking at right now.
Good, thank you.
Yes, sir. Any other questions?
Don, just, could you explain that resolution? That's new to me. And of course, I'm kind of new here, but there's a resolution that says half of the budget over goes to you said a
Surplus, yeah.
yeah, what was in it? What'd you call that account? You called it a.
Well, it is available to support the operations of the county. It's just, it's the general fund, but the accountant will say, you haven't pre-spent it, It's not committed, so it's available to support the operations of the.
How do
So
you
there's a
come up with that?
resolution that says that half that money has to go to the general fund?
Yeah.
All is in the general fund, but half is essentially spendable if we already haven't put claims on it.
I guess the question is, what's the resolution or what's the directive for the half that isn't spendable? What,
If I may, you think of it as it's the county savings account, right? It's, or half, the surplus that we have goes into our general fund. By law, state law, we have to keep a 25% or 20% reserve. And I think it's that number. What we voted, what the board voted last year,
Is
I think it was last year, maybe the year before,
Yeah.
was we're gonna bump that up to 50%.
Right.
So if we had $10 million in surplus, 5 million cannot be spent unless you do a budget amendment and get like a 2/3 vote. So if we needed to go into that money, if we had an emergency, we could, but the board would have to have a 2/3 majority and say, yes, we agree to spend that. The purpose of that is, I think, and I'm speaking for the elected officials here, was when things are going well, let's start building up our savings account. And the risk of any elected official is when you have that money sitting there, some people feel it will get spent with, and maybe it's not the emergency that we want to spend it on, that we should. So they said, let's be conservative now while we can. They voted to put it at 50%. So if you have 10 million in surplus, 5 million has to stay in reserve unless you have a 2/3 vote to say we have to spend some of that money too.
Did we vote to a 50% or a 40%? Or
50%.
we were at 40 and then we voted to bring it to 50?
I think the proposal was 40%, but when it came to
Yeah.
the board
We jumped to
said,
10%.
let's amend it to 50%.
Stephen, just to kind of help you out, and
I remember that part.
back when we built the Justice Center and that.
I
And
don't
we,
remember that part.
no, I did bring it, and where he said, we had to maintain a 25%. Well, we didn't have an administrator position then, and we went down to 18%, which really dropped our bond rating. And so it's nice to see us come from some years in trouble to where we are today.
Well, I mean, it wasn't, I never seen nothing like this when I was the highway commissioner. That there was actually surplus here.
Right.
Right.
So
And
I mean, it's a golden opportunity for us to, and we're not the only ones on this list, okay? Of priorities, there's other priorities too in other departments. But it seems like an opportunity to actually do something about it,
Well,
As
the administrator, when I look at every division's requests and the capital improvements and so on, believe me, we approve a lot of them. And then there are some we ask them to prioritize. And because if you say, tell me what you want and then fund all of them,
Yeah.
guess what? You start getting a lot of requests. And we have to weigh the needs of the county, not just one division, but the entire county. And I do know how easy it is remember when we had ARPA funds, the first reaction was, how can we spend it? And so I think it's good that the board passed that resolution to say that money's available. That's the money that the county's money that we can spend, but we're gonna put a restriction and keep half of it unless it's so important that we have to dip into that.
I understand.
So it's
Good man.
It's like no world I ever lived in when I worked here. Every year, the administrator said cut 3 to 5%. What do you mean? We got all these problems? No, cut 3 to 5%. So I mean, it's great. I mean, I think we can maybe get something positive done with it.
And we hope that we're doing some positive things. You've heard of many of the requests and we're already approving. But we also are expressing caution because of the healthcare costs, because of negotiations, because of payroll and the wage study. we're trying to look ahead 3-4 years, and if we're not careful now, it'll sneak up on us and say, oops, we're gonna have to dip into that 50% to cover our bills.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Don. The work plan, I think we got more than enough work. And we need to change something there.
If you got any more, give it to Mo.
Well, he had a pretty good synopsis, but we're doing what we need to do.
Let's see. Matters for the next meeting, I don't know if we have anything to add for the next meeting at
More
this point.
budget.
So if there's one line missing here is the supervisors that attended other meetings, or is that a different?
That's board meeting.
Okay, so then we're down to 14.
Oh, I make a motion to pass 14 positive.
Motion made and second to adjourn, all those in favor?
Aye.
We are
Mr.
adjourned.
Chair, Deputy Burrows, he worked some extra nights, like on the sheriff's night out and that, and he's got a house in Farmington there. His shingles been up on that roof there for, I don't know, 10 days or so. So I'm surprised he didn't ask the committee to come and help him.
Got the west side done last night, right after this heat wave.
Nice project, and I know you probably had it done if you weren't doing